And
Okay.
so go for it. Okay.
Thank you. Of all the different ways that I connect with Dr. Clearfield, I never think of myself as his former landlord. Most of the time, I think of us as really good friends. So I'm going to have to revisit that one. I work for the University of Nevada, Reno. I work on a grant from the EPA. It is my job to teach people about radon. So I like to meet people where they are in my presentations. So I would really like to find out, and just be honest with me, who knows anything about radon?
I do.
I know as much as Dr. Bill does.
Okay, okay.
With it's involved in property sale. But,
Yeah, like, you know, you buy if you sell a property, you have to disclose radon, whatever the hell that is.
Okay, so
That's what I know.
okay, that's what you know. Okay, so I see that my husband just came on, but he's not allowed to answer questions because he just knows by association. All right, and I normally will teach in person. I am not a professional Zoom teacher, so considering that, plus we're having some glitches, let's just hope that this goes on okay. So I am going to share my screen, which I almost just clicked leave. Okay, whoops. Is it this one? All right. So tell me what you're seeing. Are you seeing my PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Are you seeing the whole thing?
Well, we see it says teaching health professionals about radon, and over on the left, there's a bunch of other slides, I guess.
Well, why is it showing this stuff on the left?
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay.
Go to slideshow and then go to start at the beginning, and it should.
Yeah, that's where I am. Oopsie.
There
How's
you go.
that?
That's fine. You have like the presenters things, it gives you the next one over on the right. So, but that's fine.
No, I want to know what you're seeing. Are you just seeing one slide?
No, we're seeing one slide, and then we're seeing in accordance with federal civil rights law, that I think that's probably your next slide, is small in the upper right hand corner.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, there's always technical issues. Like Dr. Clearfield said, he was having a hard time starting this. I thought I would teach this from home, but our internet went out about an hour ago, and they told us that they can't fix it until tomorrow. So let's just go from there. So my job is to teach health professionals about radon, and I work on a grant from the EPA. So I don't want to talk down to you, but you're going to find out that there was a study that was conducted that tells me that most doctors do not know anything about radon, and that's why I have my job. So be patient with me while I, teach you a little bit. So the first thing that I have to do, because I work for the university and because it's the right thing to do, is to tell you that I don't discriminate, that I'll teach anybody about radon. So this is a new campaign that you will be seeing from the CDC and from the EPA. And it is a slide that says, help prevent lung cancer. Talk with your patients about the dangers of radon exposure. You will start to see this pretty soon. Whoops. So the EPA identified the top 3 influential groups to get the word out about radon. And what they found was number 1 was healthcare professionals, number 2, realtors, and number 3, church and civic groups. So I have the privilege of meeting with these different types of groups to teach them about radon. Let's see, let me move you guys over here. Okay, so physicians are often the only science professional known to their patients and are almost, I love this, almost always a trusted source of information about science in general and health in particular. So that's one of the reasons why, you know, you're very influential. I recently helped produce some radon videos with an Emmy award-winning production company. You'll be some of the first people to see it. So I'm going to click on this and hope that the new commercials, that you'll be able to see them.
We live in a beautiful state surrounded by picturesque mountains. But with mountains comes an increased risk of high radon levels. What is radon? It's an odorless radioactive gas. You can't see it, taste it, or smell it. It comes from the ground and is naturally occurring, and it can make its way into your home through openings in the foundation. It's the #1 cause of lung cancer in non-smokers, so testing your home is important for you and your family's health. But don't worry, radon exposure in dwellings is preventable, and it's easy to test for. Testing only takes a few days, and results take a few weeks. Upon receiving your kit, follow the instructions, and then send the kit back. If your results are in the safe level, you want to retest every few years, since radon levels can fluctuate over time. If your results show unsafe levels of radon, you will need to fix it by hiring a professional. No matter the age, condition, or location of your home, you can be at risk for radon exposure. The only way to know is to test. You cannot rely on your neighbor's results. Test your home so you can rest easy and share the information with family and friends. Visit our website for more information on where to pick up a test kit or to find professionals in your area to fix your radon problem.
You'll start seeing that and hearing that commercial probably in January. So if we're going to get really sciencey for you guys, we're going to talk first of all about what radon is. And for a lot of people, they just remember that it is an element. It's a noble gas on a periodic chart that you had to memorize in high school. And then unless you went on in a science field, you would have forgotten about it. But radon is a radioactive gas that it's released during the natural decay of thorium and uranium. Radon decays into radioactive elements, two of which, polonium-218 and polonium-214, emit alpha particles, which are highly effective in damaging lung tissue. So what we're going to talk about today is not really about the generalities that I would teach realtors or builders or the general public about radon. I'm going to more focus about the health implications of radon. This is another ad campaign that you'll start to see. Like Dr. Clearfield said, he just heard about radon when he was buying a home and they wanted him to test for radon. Radon is tested for during real estate transactions in most states. So this is a new campaign, just test, fix, save a life. And you might be asking, well, what does that have to do with, you know, real estate and me as a doctor? Well, what it has to do is that radon causes lung cancer. And radon is estimated to cause about 21,000 lung cancer deaths per year. If you're watching and not just listening, you'll see on the screen where it shows that radon contributes to lung cancer deaths more than drunk driving, falls in the home, drownings, and home fires combined. But yet we hear about all those types of things, but we don't hear about radon. What I'm going to share with you is some original research by a group of PhDs, MDs in North Dakota. And I want to tell you a little bit about this. I went to a radon, symposium last year, and there were speakers from all the government alphabet. And I was most impressed with this study more than, the head of the EPA or the CDC. I thought, wow, this is really important information to get out. Keep in mind that this article was externally peer reviewed. I will have a link for you if you want to read the whole research. The doctor that presented this research is Gary Schwartz. I have met him twice, and he's willing to talk to anybody about his research. And it has been published in the Journal of Family Physicians. All right, so, whoops. I don't know why my slides aren't just naturally advancing. All right, so the background on this research is that exposure to radon at home is the largest cause of lung cancer after smoking, and the combination of smoking and radon increases lung cancer risk several fold. The way this study was done is that all of the family physicians in North Dakota were sent a survey, and from what Gary told me, he had to pester the doctors to fill it out. They even had to pay some of the doctors $5 to fill it out, and they really struggled to get the information, but they thought that it was really important. And all of the responses were analyzed by descriptive statistics and analysis and variance and logistic regression. All of you researchers probably know what that is. The results were shocking. The results showed that 70% of family physicians correctly identified radon as radioactive. And what that means is that 30% of family physicians did not know that radon is radioactive. 67% reported that they do not inform patients about radon. And 80% reported never discussing the combined hazards of radon and smoking. 35% of family physicians reported that they had tested their own homes for radon. So radon gas is a gas. Radon gas is a form of ionizing radiation that results from the natural decay of radioactive elements present in rocks and soils. It naturally occurs. So for most people, exposure to radon at home is the largest source of exposure. Radon ranks second to cigarette smoke as a cause of lung cancer and causes more than 21,000 deaths in the United States per year. Now, I find it interesting, the last paragraph here. North Dakota has one of the highest levels of residential radon in the United States. For example, the average radon level in homes in Grand Forks, North Dakota, the location of the University of North Dakota's School of Medicine and Health Services, the level is 11.7, and that is 10 times greater than the average American home. Or yeah, okay. So go on to talk a little bit about this further, and I'm not going to read all the slides, but when I'm talking about this research, I want to make sure that I get it right. So the root cause of deaths caused by radon is the failure to test and remediate homes for radon. But if the public doesn't know about it, and if doctors don't know about it because it's not being taught in the medical schools, then there's a big disconnect. People find out about it generally when it's during a real estate transaction or when they have a health concern. So in order for doctors to counsel their patients about it, they have to learn the basics. So by the time we're done here today, you will know some basics. So the summary of this research study said that exposure to radon at home is the leading environmental cause of cancer in the United States. Our findings indicate a need for increased radon education among family physicians who practice in high radon areas. Our data suggests that physicians' personal experience with radon testing could reinforce their knowledge and promote counseling about this preventable cause of cancer with their patients. Maybe we talk about what we know, right? So if you look at the chart here, that you can see that when it comes to somebody, a family physician testing their own home, that it's only about 25%. And then informing patients about it, it doesn't happen very much. And then urging people to test, it happens even less. And then informing patients about the dangers of radon and smoking is almost non-existent. Where I do understand that there is a insurance billing code to speak to patients about smoking cessation, and there is not about radon. I was part of a policy making breakout group, and I know that that code is coming. Screenings for hazards like smoking, hypertension, and depression are routine elements of primary care, but radon education is not. This is a gap that could be filled by family physicians. In addition to being a proven cause of cancer, radon is a suspected cause of other cancers. For example, leukemia. That is a big one. The middle slide goes on to talk about a radon level of 10, and that is, radon is measured in picocuries per liter of air. So a radon level of 10 picocuries per liter of air is the lifetime risk of lung cancer is 18 per 1,000 among non-smokers, but is 15 per 100 among current smokers. So the summary is exposure to radon at home is the leading environmental cause of cancer in the United States. And that's pretty shocking for something that most people don't know anything about. So you might be asking, well, how does radon cause lung cancer? If you can read the screen, you can read the screen, or I'll just talk. The radon is inhaled, it gets trapped in the lungs, and it starts to cause lung cancer. If you want a more professional paragraph, then if inhaled, radon decay products, polonium-218 and polonium-214 in the solid form, unattached or attached to the surface of aerosols, dust, and smoke particles, become deeply lodged or trapped in the lungs, where they can radiate and penetrate the cells of mucous membranes, bronchi, and other pulmonary tissues. That's pretty shocking. The last one says lung cancer due to inhalation of radon decay products constitutes the only known risk associated with radon. And I have a little asterisk there because that's just not true. It is suspected, in fact, that the use of tobacco multiplies the risk of radon-inducing cancer enormously. And we'll get into that further on in the presentation. Because I work on a grant from the EPA, there is a list of things that I can say, and there's a list of things that I can't say. If you want to know the things that I can't say, I'll tell you when it's not being recorded. How's that? All right, so you might want to know what, you might be asking, what's the evidence? Well, a lot of the evidence comes from mining studies. And those of us that live in mining states, we know that there's a lot of health problems that happen in mining states. So because of the mining studies, the studies have consistently shown an increase in lung cancer occurrence with exposure to radon decay products. The low exposures in the range of the EPA's 4 picocuries per liter of air action level over longer periods of time produce greater lung cancer risk than high exposures over short periods of time. Increased lung cancer been observed to have increased risk of lung cancer. So talking about smoking and radon exposure, evidence from some of the epidemiological studies of underground miners, primarily in the US uranium miners, indicate that radon exposure and smoking may have a synergistic relationship. Either smoking or radon exposure can independently increase the risk of lung cancer. However, exposure to both greatly enhances that risk. So your chance of getting lung cancer from radon mostly depends on how much radon is in your home. And I'm also going to add, in any dwelling that touches the ground. If you spend more time at your office than at home and your office has high levels, then you're just, you know, at risk because you're breathing that air at the office. And it does matter if you have smoked or not, but a lot of non-smokers get lung cancer. This is another ad that you'll probably start seeing from the EPA. And it's just, you know, a basic message. If you live in a home with high radon levels, smoking raises your risk of lung cancer by 10 times. Now, I added the little dog and cat in there. And the reason I did that is to just share with you some information that I have that is on the okay for me to talk about list, but not on the official EPA list of things to talk about when it comes to radon. They have done research on cats and birds that have shown that cats and birds die from lung issues in homes with high radon. They're starting to do some with dogs, but that research hasn't been reviewed yet. And I think, you know, as much as people love their pets and focus on their pets, once this information comes out, there will be a lot more information also from veterinarians. I'm going to talk a little bit about how radon can enter through your home. And let me tell you, it doesn't matter if your home is old or new, or it doesn't matter. Radon's naturally occurring. Radon is always going to be present. The issue is how much radon gets into your home. So it can get in through the cracks in the foundation, through cracks in walls, through gaps around, you know, plumbing pipes, through electrical. Radon can get in through the water well. It's really sneaky. It's a gas. It takes the path of least resistance. So it's going to get into every single building. So one of the ways that radon gets into buildings is in building materials. Just keep that in mind. It's not always from the ground. Sometimes it's brought into the home with building materials. Now I'm going to talk about the White Ribbon Project. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, but I just found out about this project a year ago, and I just met the founder of this project recently, and she is an amazing woman. I'm going to show a video about her story, but I'll tell you a little bit about it first. And if you're interested, put your phone up and take a picture of the QR code on the screen so that you can go directly to their page and have access to all of their information. But this gal's name is Heidi, and she is the wife of a family physician, and she found out that she had lung cancer. And she is a personal trainer. She lives her life very, very healthy. She's never had any health concerns. And just during a routine exam, they found out that she had lung cancer, a non-smoker, and she has stage 3 lung cancer. And she decided to do some public outreach about it. And they started the White Ribbon Project. This next slide is very close to home for me. This beautiful Peruvian lady, her name is Mama Chela, and she is one of my favorite Peruvians. She was the first Peruvian that I met when I went to Peru for my son's wedding. And I walked into my now daughter-in-law's house, and this beautiful woman just hugged me and kissed me and just talked to me in Spanish and let me know that I was loved, our family was loved, and I just had this wonderful relationship ever since. And I knew that she had had some issues with breast cancer, but what I didn't know until 2 weeks ago was that she also had lung cancer, and that she was saved by a scan. She went in for a routine scan to make sure that all of her breast cancer was gone, and they detected lung cancer during that screening, and she was able to have some low-dose chemo, and they were able to cut it out, and she has no continued problems with it. But if she hadn't had a scan, she would not have known that she had lung cancer, probably until it was too late. So you might be wondering, where is radon found? Radon is found all over the world. Radon is found all over the US. If you look at the map that's on the screen, this is a map of the EPA radon zones. And what these are is, in the 1980s, the EPA did a beta study, and they asked all the states to participate to do some initial radon testing so that they could have a baseline to go from. So they would know where to put their dollars, where to start teaching people about radon, and to get the areas with most radon, remediated. So if you just look at the map, you might think, wow, it's mostly just in the north and maybe over into the northeast. And oh, wow, California doesn't really have much. Arizona doesn't have any. Wow, we're just really lucky. Oregon doesn't have much. But what I can tell you is that a lot of those states opted out of the initial testing. So this map is not really accurate. So now those of us that are the state radon directors, like myself, we work in collecting the data and updating the potential maps. And that's a big difference in averages and potentials. So any numbers that I talk about, I'm going to talk about the potential of radon there. And it's a little bit confusing, but don't ask me to explain it. So in the United States, 1 in 15 homes have elevated levels of radon. And that's only the homes that have been tested in the areas that they know about. There are some, like in the state of Nevada, where our numbers are really skewed because there hasn't been much testing there. And we don't know if, when we test the rest of the state, if the sample size is indicative of the percentages statewide. Let's see, at the bottom of this, it says that all of Iowa is located in a zone 1 red, indicating Iowans have a very high potential for elevated levels of radon gas. Well, I've lived in Iowa. There's not that many mountains in Iowa. There's more cornfields in Iowa. And we always say, where there's mountains, there's going to be radon. So what I'm wondering, and I will find out, is did Iowans really participate in this study in the beginning? And so are their numbers just a lot higher because more people participated? I just kind of wonder if that statement is still true. So this next slide, I am really pleased to share with you. I have a assistant, his name is Jim, and he's an artist, and he created, I almost said colored, he created this cartoon, and I love it. You know, he says this is what he overhears all the time, people thinking, oh, I don't live in a radon affected area. And of course, you know, the answer is, really, if you live on Earth, you live where there are high radon levels. So this next slide, we're going to talk about the action levels. When a home or a building is tested for radon and you get the test results, it's kind of screwed up because the EPA sets the action level at 4. It says if your test comes back at 4 picocuries per liter of air, then that's the action level. You need to do something. You need to remediate that home and get your levels down. But what's interesting is that the World Health Organization puts that number at 2.7. And it would be really nice if they could just agree. I can tell you from my personal experience that if my home tested in the 2.5 range, I would be doing something about it. So one of the things I found really shocking, and that I blew up on the green on the side, the green icon on the side, I wrote, a family living in a home with a radon level of 4 picocuries per liter of air is equivalent to 35 as much times, equivalent to 35 as much radiation as the NRC would allow living next to a radioactive site, which is nuts. We are allowed to live in homes. Nothing's done about it. Unless you're in the right place and you know what to do about it. I mean, it's very dangerous. People are getting lung cancer because they don't know that their home has radon. So let's talk about some states. These are the top 10. And I can't see your faces, and I don't know where you're from, but if you live in Alaska, you're the winner. You have 10 times the amount of healthy radon. And then you can look down on the list. South Dakota, Pennsylvania, yay, go Dr. Clearfield, Ohio, Washington, Kentucky, Montana, Idaho, Colorado, and Iowa. And that's just the top 10. And you might not think, well, you know, Iowa at 6, that's not that much, but that is 6 times the amount of radiation that is considered healthy. I don't think I put in the slides about the equivalent of chest x-rays. I think I did put in the slides about the equivalent of cigarettes though. But you can always look it up and see how many chest x-rays that you would have to take to get as much radiation as living in a home with low levels of radon. People often ask, well, what's the basis for the 4 picocuries per liter of air in the action level when there's no safe level of radon exposure? Well, that number is based on the current technology for mitigation. Because radon occurs naturally, there's always going to be some amount of radon, you know, in the outdoors, in any building. And when a home has high levels of radon and a ventilation system is put in, which is called, you know, a ventilation system, the numbers can usually be brought down under 2, and that's considered safe. Now, if there was technology that was better, then the EPA would change that number. So the average radon level in homes is about 1.25, but that number really can't be trusted that much because there's areas that have never been tested. So Dr. Clearfield told me that some of you might be from California. So I posted California's map. There's been a lot of updates on this map since the 80s. And you'll see that there are now quite a few zone 1 areas in California, and it's mostly in the mountainous areas. And he said there'd be some Texans. So I pulled up the Texas map, and on this particular map, there are no red or zone 1s in Texas, but there's a lot of orange, so that's concerning. And then we move on to Illinois. Look at that, there is a lot of zone 1 in Illinois and zone 2. In fact, the only area that has low is just the southern tip. Go Illinois, huh? All right, so he told me there might be somebody from Florida on here. So Florida, here is your map. Oops. So on this map, they've got zone 1 in green and zone 5 in orange. But it looks like all of Florida has some elevated levels. Because I talk about the Nevada maps and I work for the state of Nevada, I have a lot of data, a lot of information about the state of Nevada. So here we have Nevada. A lot of it is in red. We are a mountainous state. If you look at this map and you think, well, there's not much going on in southern Nevada, I can tell you the reason is because there hasn't been much testing in southern Nevada. But in the areas where the testing has happened, there have been test results in the almost 200s, which is crazy. When I teach a class in Nevada, I go through every single county and show people their results. I don't know how many of you are from Nevada, but what I can tell you is that the highest reading ever in the state of Nevada was in downtown Reno, and we had a reading of 195, which is pretty scary. If you look at this orange column, the radon potential, you can go down and see the updated numbers as of yesterday for every county and how much the radon potential is. And just a quick glance, and I'll verbalize it for those of you that are just listening. There are a lot in the 25, 30, 40, 50 ranges in every single county in Nevada. We really need to be concerned about radon here. But what's interesting is that Nevada is one of the few states that does not have any regulations, statutes, or laws that support radon testing. We're really behind the times in that. I do hope that that changes. When you are testing your home for radon, you cannot rely on your neighbor's results. I created this slide from some actual neighborhood data that I have. Look at this. This house has a 45. The next house has a 3. The next house is an 85. The next has a 15. And you might ask, how does that happen? Well, radon is a gas and it travels the path of least resistance. So let's say that this house over here that has a level of 45, they had their house tested and it was really, really high and they mitigated. But then the people that had the 3 next door, they thought, oh, I don't have to worry about it. But then let's say that there was a drought that we always have in Nevada because, you know, we live in a desert. And then there's some seismic activity. We have a lot of earthquakes, and then some cracks in the earth opened up or in a foundation or something changed in the earth. or in the foundation of the house. So the gas from the neighbor came over to the house that has a 3 above it. So the people thought that they were safe and they didn't know that they had a high radon. And the only way that they're going to know is if they test. There's no way, just no other way to know except if you test. So I'm going to move into talking a little bit about testing. So these test kits that every single state radon office has, they're like $10. This is a short-term test kits. It's just some charcoal. There's the right way to test. You can order a test, pay, I think it's $11 is the most in any state. And you can receive a test, a return envelope, the instructions on how to test, and the results, all for $11. Testing takes a few days. The results take a few weeks. These are tests for personal use, never for real estate transactions. And that's a whole nother class. So if a house has high radon